When the Chargers moved from San Diego to LA, I thought you wouldn't be like a diehard Charger fan to watch these games. And let me tell you, I have not gone out of my way since the Chargers moved to hustle home and make sure I don't miss the opening kickoff. It doesn't work that way. If the Chargers are playing and I'm out doing something or at a softball field or a soccer game or a volleyball, I mean, I don't rush home. But I got home yesterday at the end of the first quarter. I turned the game on. By the way, there were a lot of games yesterday that weren't very good. The morning games weren't all that great. It just wasn't a great. And college football wasn't a great weekend either, I might add. But yesterday there were a couple of decent matchups. That game last night turned out pretty good. Houston and uh, the Detroit Lions, they came back and won that game. That turned out to be a pretty good game. Kansas City, Denver, they blocked the field goal, and Kansas City goes to 9-0. I mean, there were a couple of good games yesterday. But anyways, I'm watching the game, and my wife goes to me, and she goes, she goes, I thought once the Chargers moved, you wouldn't like really be into the Charger games. I go, oh, I'm into them. Yeah, but I watch them now completely different. I watch them not to win, but to lose. I don't care who they're playing. I hope they get beat. Okay, I don't have the love for the Chargers that I did growing up here in San Diego. It's that simple. Now I get that there's still a lot of people, and let me tell you, I met so many great Charger fans over the years, and I was very lucky. I started really covering the Chargers in sports talk radio in 1994. Okay, I was out there during training camp. I was out there during the regular season. I did their post-game talk show for 3 years. I did a pregame show. Their final year that the radio station 690 had the contract in '97, and had a great time. I had a really great time. Met a lot of great guys, Junior and Rodney Harrison, the whole gang. I knew them all. John Carney. I used to go behind the goal poster in training camp, and David Binn was a rookie in '94. He'd snap the ball to Gail Gilbert, who was a backup quarterback, and John Carney would whack it through the uprights out at UCSD, and I'd be back there catching the ball and throwing it back to David Binn. They wouldn't let a broadcaster on the field now. But that's how tight I was in with the Chargers back in the day. That's how I got to know all those guys. Even the offensive line one year gave me a Christmas present. Okay, they're a great group of guys, and I loved them. And I go back to as early as I can remember, 5 years old, and Keith Lincoln and Paul Lowe and Lance Allworth and John Hadel and Gary Garrison, the whole gang. I lived and died Charger football. Lived and died Charger football. And now I still love their uniforms, and I love their quarterback. Quarterback's fantastic. But I don't like the organization, and it's hard for me to even think one positive thing about the Chargers right now as far as wanting them to win or get into the playoffs. Okay. But my wife asked me, why are you doing this? I go, because I want to see if they can lose. But I also understand that there are a lot of people in San Diego that still follow the Chargers. And I understand that. Okay. I guess I'm just bitter for a variety of different reasons. I'd never really thought Dean Spanos would move him. And Dean even told me once upon a time, he goes, I don't ever see moving this franchise. Well, at the end of the day, he moved the franchise. He was the final vote. Him and his two sons were the final vote to move to LA. Now, there's a lot of people to blame, folks. It's not just Dean Spanos. Now, he ultimately is the one that made the decision. He's like the head coach. And you hear from all your assistants, namely, the mayor, the city council, whoever else had a vote in not working on a stadium. I don't know if we'll ever get an NFL team back. I really don't. And if we do, it probably won't be in my lifetime. But at the end of the day, Dean Spanos is the one that raised his hand and said, we're out of here. Okay, but there are a lot of people at City Hall that were in City Hall, that are in City Hall, that deserve a little bit of this blame. It's that simple. It just wasn't a one-man deal. Ultimately, it came down to the one man, but there were a lot of things that went on prior to that. And shame on Roger Goodell, the commissioner, for allowing that to happen. I mean, it should have never happened. Okay, the Charger fan base here was incredible. Absolutely incredible. Even when they knew that franchise was going to move, they still supported this franchise. Think about it. When the Chargers were really going, I mean, every Friday, all over town, people were wearing Charger gear. You go to the bank to cash your check. lady, the teller, they all got Charger gear on. I mean, it was unbelievable. When the Chargers had good teams, this city was on fire. I used to sit at my home at night before a game and dread having to try to get into the parking lot, because if you didn't get to the parking lot 3 hours early, you didn't get a spot, even if you were in the media. I used to like stress out the night before games because I knew it was going to be tough to get into the parking lot. But I want to know where you're at. Are you still a Charger fan? And I get it. A lot of people, their whole social life wrapped around Charger football. They would get out there when the doors opened at 8 o'clock in the parking lot. They're backing in their big minivan or their big coach, and man, they're out there until kickoff, and they're back out there until after 6 o'clock until they get kicked out of the parking lot, because that was their social life. They were really into it, and they did it for years and years and years. I can't see driving. I've been offered many a time since the Chargers moved to go up to SoFi Stadium on a Sunday. I'm not doing that. I don't like going to LA. I really don't. I love the Lakers because I've been a Laker fan since I was a little boy, but I don't like driving to LA. I really don't, let alone on a Sunday. But if you folks are doing it, great. More power to you. I give you a lot of credit. Okay, I'd rather go do something a little bit more productive than sit on the freeway for maybe 3 hours each way. Okay, but that's your choice. That's your personal choice, and I respect you. Okay, now the question I have: do you follow the NFL and do you follow the Chargers? Are you still a Charger fan or are you an ex-Charger fan? I want your opinion on that. And really, not just because I was watching the game yesterday. My wife asked me, why do you watch these games? I go, because I want to watch them lose. I follow the different, I'm channel surf all the time. And, I take a look at the paper. And I'll start with the paper and then I'll get to the TV. I look at today's Union Tribune, and I think Ryan Finley, the sports editor down there, done a heck of a job. He took over for Jay Posner. I think he's done a really nice job and continued some really good coverage. Now, I look at the morning paper today, and you've got yesterday, you had, Howie Long and Jay Glazer and Kurt Menefee, Terry Bradshaw, Jimmy Johnson, Rob Gronkowski. You got Michael Strahan. They were all out of Coronado celebrating Veterans Day. And it was a great show. I watched a really good show. Really good show. Really enjoyed it. Then down in the front left corner of the paper, you got an article by Tom Krasovic. Can Chiefs keep up their perfect season? Big article on the Kansas City Chiefs. Not that I don't know if anybody in San Diego really cares about the Chiefs, but that's what was in the paper today. NFL. NFL up here, NFL here. And then over here, you got a picture of Justin Herbert in an article. Then you go back in the paper to page 4, and you got a whole thing on the Chargers. You got Nick Canepa's report card. You can see his report card over here that he's done for years and years. Right there. Right here, where my finger is up top. Okay. Kind of hard to show it on the camera, but they've got all kinds of Charger coverage. Okay, that's one. Then, yesterday after the game, in the afternoon games, I turn on Channel 8. I watch Jake Ariani and John Howard and Karnick, the new gentleman they hired, doing a nice job, I might add, on Channel 8. And they do a whole NFL recap, and a lot of it's wrapped around the Chargers. Okay, and then after the NBC Sunday night game, you've got Rich Camarillo, you got Ornberger, Big Rich, good guy, and Darnay Tripp, Todd Strain, Derek Torgerson, who a lot of times goes up to SoFi Stadium, and they talk about the NFL, and they do a little San Diego State deal with Sean Lewis each and every week. But a lot of the shows wrapped around the Chargers. And if the Rams are playing, and by the way, the Rams are playing tonight against Miami at home, you would hope they would win. They win that, they'll be 5-4. They'll be tied with the 49ers in Arizona. Seattle was off this week, and they're 4-5. That NFC West is just a logjam. But anyways, all the TV stations, play towards the Chargers. And I'm saying, you know what? If they're playing to the Chargers, they must be still getting pretty good ratings covering the Chargers, or they wouldn't do it. And I would say the same thing with the Union Tribune. People must still want Charger information in San Diego. And my question to you, are you one of those people? Where do you stand on that? That's what I want to hear. Okay, Jim Healy. I don't follow the NFL anymore, but I do root for the Bolts to lose. Hey, Jim, you and I, little fist bump on that, buddy. Totally agree with you, 100%. So I want to know where you stand. Do you follow the NFL? But more importantly, do you follow the Chargers, or are you an ex-Charger fan? Or are you like Jim and me that we root for the Chargers to lose? Give me your take on that. By the way, the Chargers won yesterday. And I got another thing on the Chargers. And I don't want to beat the Chargers into the ground, but I will. Okay, they're 6-3. Who the hell have they beaten? I mean, seriously. They're going to get into the playoffs probably because they had a weak schedule. They won 5 games a year ago. They've already won 6 this year under Jim Harbaugh. They're 6-3. Last year they were 5-12. Okay, Brandon Staley was an awful head coach. I mean, I'm not even well, I coach football, but I couldn't coach in the NFL unless I had good people around me. Okay, I can motivate athletes. I can motivate anybody because they'll buy into what I'm selling. But Brandon Staley was not a head coach. That was a disastrous hire. I liked Anthony Lynn. I think if he'd had a little more support up there, he may have been a little bit better. I liked his style. I know we can talk about time management, blah, 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 but he didn't have a great group of assistants. And Brandon Staley was just overmatched and became very arrogant. Jim Harbaugh, we know, is a winning coach. Okay. We'll see how long he lasts with the Chargers after a while. But anyways, Chargers are 6-3. But who have they beaten? They beat the Raiders. Raiders, they're awful. Well, they won 2 games so far this year, the Raiders. They've already fired their offensive coordinator. Norv Turner's coming in as a consultant. The Raiders are awful. Carolina, they're 3-7. Denver, they got beat yesterday. They should have won. They missed an opportunity to win when their field goal got blocked. They're 5-5. That's really the best win the Chargers have this year, is a 5-5 Denver team. And then they beat New Orleans. New Orleans awful, 3-7. Cleveland, Tennessee, both 2-7. I mean, those are awful teams. Tennessee was awful. Will Levis might develop into being a decent quarterback, but at this point in time, they don't have enough in Tennessee. So they've beaten the Raiders, Carolina, Denver, New Orleans, Cleveland, Tennessee. They've got 3 losses all to good teams. So what I'm saying is they've beaten the bad teams and they've lost to the good teams. They got beat at Pittsburgh 20-10 by a 7-2 Steelers team. They got beat at home 17-10 by the defending world champion Kansas City, 17-10, 9-0 Kansas City. And then they lost at Arizona. I don't know how the hell they lost that game, but they got beat 17-15. In Arizona now playing some really good football. They're 6-4. They're doing great. So 6-4. I think I said they were 5-5 or 5-4 a minute ago. Arizona 6-4. 49ers are 5-4. Rams can get to 5-4 with a win over the Dolphins. Then you got Seattle at 4-5. Okay. Games left for the Chargers: Cincinnati, Baltimore, at Atlanta, at Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Denver, at New England, at Raiders. They're going to probably get 10 wins. And they'll get into the playoffs, and they'll probably go out in the first round. Okay, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in the Chargers against good quality opponents. That's me. I don't know where you stand on that.